I'm at Mahindra and Mahindra in Kandivali, catching up with Rajesh Jejurikar, and we are speaking a lot more about how he's transforming the company from a rugged utility maker into the new age of EVs and swanky SUVs. Many of them we see parked right here around us. Rajesh, thank you so much for joining us on
Hi,
ET
Shivani.
Now.
Thanks for coming here.
And you're looking quite dapper in that jacket. We're going to go for a drive very soon. But having said that, this evolution of brand Mahindra has been quite remarkable over the past many years. From what I know, from my childhood, my memories of Mahindra have been, driving in a Scorpio or known for these particular vehicles like Bolero, and now you have these range of SUVs, of course, dominating the SUV market in a country in a great way. Tell us more about this transformation and how it has happened, and how is the consumer looking at this whole transformation?
Yeah, so Shivani, the one thing we've kind of picked up over time is customers do want technology and the refinement of a car.
Sure.
So while the brand stands for a very rugged SUV DNA and consumers do want that out of a Mahindra, that's who we stand for. What they were not comfortable with was the lack of sophistication, if I may use that word, in our vehicles earlier. And what we've seen over the last 5 years, and the Thar is a great example of that, is of a vehicle which has retained its core DNA, but it comes in a much more sophisticated, refined, tech-savvy avatar. And I think that's what's led this change and transformation. Products which are leading the curve on technology, now features, which is what has made the product more mainstream. Otherwise, we were kind of playing on the periphery of people who liked the form, but didn't give enough for them to be able to make it mainstream with their families as well. Right.
And Thar does have cult following amongst the younger generation as well as the millennials and slightly older set of people as well. So what were some of the learnings from Thar that you applied while launching all of these other SUVs which are quite popular, like the XUV 700 for example?
There are different sub-segments. So the Thar 3-door was a very, let's say, always thought of as a niche, because it is, the going in assumption is in India, no one's going to want a 3-door. That's really a very specific niche. So the older version that we had of the Thar pre-2020 was actually selling just 600 a month. When we brought in the Thar newer version in 2020, what we saw was because the engine had become much quieter, less vibrations, noise, all of that, it started bringing in a completely new set of customers who had always aspired for the brand, but the product was not living up to their expectations. So once the product crossed the bar and the threshold of, yes, this is something I can drive to work in, it opened up a whole new stream, and we went on to actually doing as much as 6,000 a month of the Thar 3-door. So what was a 600 per month brand went on to become 6,000. And now combined with the Rocks, the Thar brand does about 10,000 a month. So it's a combination of the product tech. Now to your specific question on how did we use these learnings, what we learned out of this was customers, the form is very important, that's the core of who we are. And the term we use for that is unmissable presence. So Mahindra must have two things which represent its core. One is unmissable presence. See these cars around? You see them anywhere on the road, even our EVs. You see the car, the orange one back there, that's the B6. Even at that size, it has an unmissable presence. So they must have unmissable presence, and they must be head-turning designs.
Absolutely.
So these became the two core things. Around that, we said the products must have a certain level of safety, sophistication, refinement, and what we call technology as sci-fi today. So in all our products, what we've tried to do is bring in technologies which customers don't expect to see at these price points.
Right.
Those technologies may be available at 2 or 3 price points higher.
Yeah, but many customers still agree that, you know, some of the popular vehicles like XUV 700 are getting more expensive with each passing day. So what is, you know, your argument to that?
So let's see the evolution of the brand and the price points we launched it in 2021, so we're now in close to 4.5 years.
Yeah.
We launched at a very attractive price, starting around 12 lakhs and went up to 18, 19. Then we saw a huge commodity inflation which pushed the price points up. In this period of time, 21 to 24, commodity prices went up something like 17%.
Right.
So that did lead to a escalation in the consumer prices. But when we saw that the product had crossed a price point which was reducing our opportunity to grow,
right,
we did something which is not normally done, and we took a decision to cut price,
right,
by over 1 lakh at the top end. What that did is, you know this, so 70% of the volumes we get on XUV7, we were getting on XUV 700 was the top 2 versions.
Right.
That started coming under pressure at a certain price.
Correct.
So as soon as we corrected that, we got that ratio back.
Yeah.
And you know, consumers still want to buy the higher end products, versions in our products.
Yes.
Because they're very feature packed and they come at a very good price.
Yes.
But we have to make sure that we always keep that sweet spots pricing in place.
Yeah.
So when we launched the XUV 7XO, we now have the full 3-screen look, which is the same as what we have on the EVs. And we've kind of kept the pricing with that and a lot of other additions at the level at which the XUV 700 was.
Right.
So consumers continue to get a huge value.
I'm going to pick on one particular data point that you mentioned, that, you know, the consumers of XUV 700 70% of the consumers go for the top variant.
Yeah.
So what does this say about, you know, the aspiration of the consumers today? And what is the age group, if I may ask? Is it the younger India, or, you know, someone who has worked its way into the corporate for like a decade or so? Who is this consumer?
I think the one interesting thing about the brand Mahindra SUVs that we have today is a set of consumers who are very psychographically and demographically diverse.
Right.
So if you look at our Bolero and Scorpio portfolio, they're very mid-sized town rural products. Right. Even within the Bolero portfolio, the Bolero Neo consumer is younger. The Bolero customer is the more traditional customer and is older. Now we have Scorpio and Scorpio N. Right. So Scorpio is a little older. The Scorpio N consumer is a little younger, which is a newer product. Yeah. So even within our portfolio, we have that. Thar 3-door, which we just spoke about, interestingly has a lot of women customers and very young profile of customers.
Right.
A lot of kids use that to go to college and so on. So
I have seen a lot of pink Thars and, you know, like white Thars.
Yes.
Up north.
Yeah.
Very,
North has a lot of black. North has a lot of black as well. Very popular in North.
Absolutely. Rajesh, help us, you know, understand now, since you're moving aggressively in the EV space, and EV consumer also in the country has moved their mindset from shall I to when shall I. So how are you tapping into this consumer who's like still sitting on the fence and pushing them over to the other side and convincing them to go for your EV? Yeah,
actually the fence is not that dominant as it was a year and a half back. Right. Today almost 8% of our SUVs are EV. Right. We've sold over 40,000 EVs at an average price point of something like 27 to 28 lakhs. Right. Which is a price point, honestly, 5 years back we would never imagine that we would be able to sell so many vehicles under a Mahindra brand at a price point of 28 to 30 lakhs. Right. 80% of the 9E is the top end, or 70 odd percent, which is 31 lakhs ex-showroom. Right. So, you know, the brand has moved up the aspirational chain, we believe, because of the way the products are configured and the fact that we are offering a very lifestyle experience. To your specific question on how do we get people to say now, there are a series of barriers. So while the product is positioned around lifestyle, there are a series of barriers that consumers have about EVs. Right. One of which was how sure am I about the life of the battery. So, you know, when we launched, we said, okay, the battery has a lifetime warranty. Right. So that becomes one of the steps to overcome a barrier. The other was how safe is the battery, and we've, you know, done lots of videos out there to demonstrate its robustness under fire, under, you know, flooding water, so on and so forth. So give them confidence that this is a really robust battery pack. The third and the biggest barrier was the range.
Right.
And what has commonly come to be called range anxiety. So one of the learnings that's come out of the launch is consumers are liking the 79 kilowatt hour and don't mind paying the lakh or extra for that, because it gives a range, a real world range in cities of about 500 kilometers plus. Now, if you're, for most city consumers, if you're using 500 kilometers, getting a 500 kilometer range, you don't need to charge more than once a week or once in 10 days. Right. So your range, your fear of where to charge comes down dramatically. You know, I do Bandra to Kandivali, which is like several kilometers a day, 2 hours on the road.
And how many times do you charge?
Not more than once a week.
Not more than once a week.
So, which actually is, you know, in my own ownership experience, is a big pain point gone of sending vehicle for fueling.
Right.
Or going to the petrol pump and all of that, right? Because this is like so much easier, you're just charging it at home or in office.
Right, right.
So it's actually a reverse positive.
You address the consumer anxiety, but you know, when it comes to the anxiety of the OEMs now, with so many geopolitical stressors and of course, you know, the precious metal rally, how is it having an impact on your business?
Precious metal rally is a momentary thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know, when
with the silver pricing and especially.
Yeah, silver doesn't affect us. So it's more the precious metals, which is the rhodium and, you know, that category, platinum and all of that. So that had gone up, and that there was a spike around that, but suddenly that's come down the last few days as well. So
and of course the rare earth material.
Yeah, rare earth we've covered and we've de-risked ourselves. So. Yeah. You know, the one thing we've learned out of the last 4 years, starting with COVID, is the real core DNA an organization has to have is resilience.
Resilience, correct.
Yeah. So, you know, you have to be prepared for new news every day.
Yeah.
And then be prepared to overcome adversities as they come your way.
Right.
And that's where the organization DNA really has to be one of being very agile and very quick to respond to whatever the latest thing that's coming up. And very often you're not able to predict a lot of these things, right? Or there are too many scenarios for you to take preemptive actions on.
Right.
So you just got to play them out as they come.
Right, right. So having said that, we have reached BE6, which is a swanky new BE6, which is standing right in front of us. Beautiful color. Rajesh, are we going for a spin or not?
Yeah, why not? So this car Shibani is actually set around a racing theme. So this is meant to be like the cockpit of a race car.
Right. And is it available for the normal consumer to purchase it?
Yeah. This is what it is.
Pardon my ignorance about it.
So the B6 we've launched along with the 9E.
Right.
This one is a special edition which is called the Formula E edition, modeled on a Formula E car. So it's actually carries that lineage, and which is why you see some of the carryover colors of the Formula E here. But everything else, the screens and the you know, cockpit, which is cockpit kind of feel, is available in a B6. Yeah.
Wonderful. Rajesh, you've always spoken about, you know, the car or your SUVs having that wow factor.
Yeah.
You know, with so many of these global players also getting in their SUVs into the Indian market, how do you ensure that a Mahindra vehicle, an SUV or an EV, stands out in the parking lot?
Yeah, so two things we spoke about. One is developing cars which have an unmissable presence. And a lot of people have this question around, why don't we do small cars?
Right.
Why don't we do small micro SUV? And the answer to that is we won't do it unless we find a way to maintain the core of who we are.
Correct.
And the core of who we are is that presence, right? So when you see a whole bunch of Mahindra cars parked here,
Right.
and when they're on the road, they stand out for their design, their presence, the wheel size, all of which create a very distinctive character. And coming back to understanding of Indian consumers, which I think is in some ways unique around the world,
Yeah.
is the car in India is a very significant reflection of your aspirations more than other parts of the world.
Correct.
We have to keep in mind that most Indians haven't grown up with a car. And one of the first measures of success is your two-wheeler, and then you move on from there.
Yeah.
And as you kind of start achieving more success in life, then you want that car to really reflect who you are.
Yeah.
And hence personality, design, all of that plays a very, very important role. It's not just a mobility solution, which is, my car is to get me from A to B.
Yeah.
This is not about that. This is about, your personality and what your lifestyle is.
Right.
And hence we play into that set of consumer expectations of how the car is such an important member of their life.
Yeah.
And we of the B6 we launched a Batman edition, the first.
The Batman, yes, of
which
course.
of course did very well.
I saw a lot of press around that, and a lot of excitement around the Batman edition, of course.
And when customers came to take delivery, so many of them came dressed in the Batman attire and so on and so forth.
Great.
But more recently, I was in Bangalore and I was at a showroom and there was a customer delivery event on. And they didn't know I was there because I had not planned. That customer had come in a ruby velvet, which is the color of the car,
Right.
a suit in ruby velvet, and two 5-year-old twins in identical ruby velvet suit. So that is how emotional the experience is for the customer.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you something that you mentioned, and I want to understand how many of the Mahindra buyers today are the first time buyers of any vehicle.
Yeah, when we look at our portfolio, maybe for both Bolero and the XUV 3XO, which are both in a way entry level in that category, we have a large number of customers who are first time buyers. But for a lot of our other products, it won't be probably more than 20-30%.
Right.
For the EVs, 80% of them are non-Mahindra buyers. So they've come from a totally different set of vehicles. So many of them from luxury brands.
Yeah.
So they're actually luxury brand buyers who've come into buying
Mahindra
EVs.
Yeah. So when you speak about EV and you talk about the core SUV DNA of Mahindra, how do you ensure that that DNA and that core trait of the SUVs from Mahindra gets translated to your EV vehicles as well, in terms of its ruggedness, in terms of its look, apart from all the elegance and the high-tech features that an EV has?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a difficult balancing act, because a lot of the EV customers, and one of the reasons we call this brand B is we wanted to create a distinct identity which is more modern than what the Mahindra identity stands for. And even the XEV 9e has a little bit more of the coupe look and a little less of the conventional SUV look. They both have very strong road presence, are both very strong design languages, but they cut away a little bit from the Mahindra core DNA.
Right.
Which is why we got a lot of non-Mahindra buyers coming into the first two EVs, which is the XEV 9e and the B6.
Yeah.
As we've launched the XEV 9S, which is the 7-seater version that we just launched, that is a more conventional looking Mahindra SUV, even though it comes on the same Inglo electric origin SUV platform.